Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. We just came out of a closed session, so our meeting has already been called to order. So we're just going to begin now with some comments from the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight we have our annual budget presentation for the preliminary. We'll also have a presentation this evening from our district architects about referendum update in both Town Center and Maurice Hawk updates. But before we dive into the agenda, I just want to make special note that tonight on the agenda there is an action to accept the retirement for one of my colleagues at the table. So to Martin Smith for his last 8 years of service to the community, the last 40 years of service to public education. You know, it's a rare opportunity to have partnerships over time in this profession, especially at central office. And I've had the great pleasure to work with Martin these past 8 years. This district has moved tremendously during that time under his leadership, especially under areas of curriculum and instruction. He's hired an amazing team of administrators, and we'll have opportunity to celebrate him as we move forward, but I didn't want the night to go by without at least a recognition to Martin about his retirement. We wish you much health and happiness and opportunities to travel and do the things that you love. So thank you for all your time and service and partnership.
Now it's our first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
And each year awards college scholarship money to a graduating senior who has received services. Recently, we were contacted by Donna Walker, past exalted ruler of Princeton Elks Lodge 2129, about making a donation to SEPSA and an invitation to their monthly pizza night to present us with a check. As a national organization, Elks have long supported causes about veterans and children, and local lodges can apply for grants to award to organizations in their communities. Having found the good work of SEPSA via our website and Facebook page, the Princeton Lodge expanded their search for worthy recipients beyond their usual list. President Kathleen Moriarty and I attended pizza night last Tuesday, having no idea about the generosity that was about to occur. We were ecstatic to receive, on behalf of SEPSA, a check in the amount of $1,000. As a smaller PTSA that relies on membership and donations, this is a very big deal. And we have props. And proving the saying that 80% of success and life is showing up, we were again delighted to be contacted over the weekend about yet another donation. One of the chosen organizations failed to show up to pizza night and did not follow up further, so that money will be shared among those organizations that did. When an exalted ruler invites you to pizza night, it's a good idea to go. So on behalf of the SEPSA board and our member parents, teachers, and students, we would like to sincerely thank the Princeton Elks for this community grant and the generous support that they are providing to organizations in the greater Princeton area.
Congratulations.
That's terrific. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing as there's none, we're going to move on to our committee reports. We'll begin with administration and facilities.
Thank you. The A&F committee met on March 12th. We reviewed three policies and a regulation, athletic competition, varsity letters for interscholastic extracurricular activities, procurement procedures for the school nutrition program, and the regulation for medical examination prior to participation in a school-sponsored interscholastic or intramural team or squad. All these are on the agenda now for that second reading. We've made incorporated comments at our last meeting, and we recommend they be approved. Then the committee heard a update on the safety and security. The wiring for new cameras, strobes, message boards, and telephones is completed at all 10 buildings, with the exception of the two new additions, the addition at Hawk and the one at Town Center, which will be done once those buildings are closed in. If you go there now, you'll see that, I don't know if the walls are up at Hawk yet, but I saw at Town Center, the roof is up, so it'll be soon. We also heard FVHD came and gave us an update on the referendum projects, and everything seems to be going fine at the moment. We had discussed the fire alarm systems. Design work is complete on all 10 buildings. Phase 1 will include Hawk, Town Center, Village, and High School South. Community Middle School, Dutch Neck, and Millstone River will also get new fire alarms. High Schools North and Grover are currently up to date, so they're not going to be getting any new work. The generators design work for the generators is nearly complete and will be ready to be bid in April. The generators are going to be supporting critical loads, including life safety features in each of the buildings. And the outdoor work will be done in the summer. The committee was informed that rooftops at Town Center and Maurice Hawk were being added and expected to be complete next week, which I guess is this week. While construction crews are currently working to enclose each site to begin work on the inside. We also saw renderings of Community and Grover as the designs for that work, for those buildings are progressing. And the committee also discussed the equity update. The equity leadership team continues to engage district staff in building a foundation to provide equity work in our schools. And the team is going to meet again with Dr. Eddie Fergus, who's a professor at Temple University, on March 25th, and to continue the work of solving disproportionality and achieving equity in the district. Finally, we reviewed the latest draft of the 2020-2021 school calendar, and we're moving that forward tonight for its first reading. Next meeting is on Tuesday, April 16th. Hmm?
Calendar's not for approval.
It's just not the first reading?
It's for approval. That doesn't get you readings.
Oh, okay, well, it's the first and only reading, so it's up for approval tonight.
Curriculum?
The Curriculum Committee also met on Tuesday, March 12th, last week, and we reviewed the 2017-18 New Jersey School Performance Reports, or at least highlights of the 325 pages for the district that was released by the New Jersey Department of Education. The reports can be found on newjerseyschooldata.org. The reports contain many data points related to student performance on standardized assessments such as PARCC, ACT, APs, PSAT, and SATs. As the testing report presented to the full board in the fall indicated, the district continues to score well above state and national averages on these exams. The data also includes information about attendance, chronic absenteeism, student suspension rates, expulsions, instructional time, student-to-staff ratio, high school graduation rates, participation rates in each content area, faculty attendance, as well as comprehensive status. New Jersey's school accountability system identifies schools that are in need of comprehensive and targeted support as required by every Student Succeeds Act, or the ESSA. No WWP school requires comprehensive support and improvement. The committee also reviewed the survey results from the February 15th Professional Development in-Service Day, and the staff was overwhelmingly positive in their assessment of the day. The committee next reviewed the superintendent's recommendation to allow a research project by Kristen Fiumara, a fourth grade teacher at Village, entitled Strengthening Parent Self-Efficacy, Understanding in the Math Workshop Model, which would interview parents with their full consent in the district. All institutional review board protocols will be followed. The committee recommends approval of a change to the high school program of studies, changing Algebra 2 prerequisite for the AP Computer Science A and AP Computer Science principles to Algebra 1. The committee also recommends adoption of the textbook for Math 7 and Math 7 honors courses entitled EdGEMS Accelerated Math Course 2 by McCaw. The teachers who will be teaching this course and the math supervisor evaluated all the textbooks available at this level and followed the established protocols for textbook adoption. The committee recommends approval for the creation of 2 AP exam assistant coordinator positions, one at each high school at the rate of $3,500 for 20 days. Money received from the testing fees will be used to cover this expense. The committee also recommends approval of a 1-year agreement with Frontline Technology Group to provide end-user licensing for the Danielson Framework, evaluation, training, and certification for 5 district administrators from July of this year through June of next year for a cost of $1,670. The committee also recommends approval for 2 professional development workshops and travel, 2 administrators to attend a social emotional learning integration conference in Boston later this month. The cost is not to exceed $1,318 per person. 1 teacher to attend a one-week teacher college summer institute at Columbia University in June at a cost of $850 plus travel. The committee also recommends approval of 2 overnight field trips for high school North students. The academic decathlon students to the National Academic Decathlon in Bloomington, Minnesota in April. The cost is approximately $700 per student. And the economics students to the National Economics Competition in New York in May. No costs associated with this trip. The committee will next meet on Tuesday, April 16th.
Are there any questions about curriculum? Okay, finance?
Thank you. The Finance Committee met also on March 12th, 2019. The committee reviewed the agenda items for tonight's board meeting. The motion to submit the tentative budget to the county office is on the agenda, as well as the motion to set the maximum travel allowance for the year. The annual motion to provide a definition of regular business travel and to set thresholds is also included. And there will be a motion to approve Schneider Electric as the energy savings company for the Energy Saving Improvement Plan, or also known as ESIP. Other items recommended for approval include obsolete items to be disposed of or placed on GovDeals, transportation contracts, and travel items. We also reviewed the hourly rate increases due to the minimum wage increase. We went over the hourly and per diem rates for the 2019-2020 school year based on increases required by the $15 per hour minimum wage requirement. These include a July 2019 increase, followed by an additional increase in January 2020. We also discussed community education proposed rate increases. The $15 per hour minimum wage law will require an immediate minimum wage increase to $10 in July of 2019 and then to $11 in January 2020. This, along with a 2.5 salary increase for employees above the threshold, will require a budget increase of $40,000 for salaries alone. We also discussed a change in the EDP pickup time from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The 6:30 p.m. pickup will be available starting in the 2019-20 school year. We also went over the 2019-2020 budget progress. We learned that the district received an additional $715,796 in state aid. Information was also presented regarding the use of spending authority from 2.25% to 2.45%. This includes 2 additional positions in guidance, a reading interventionist and a board-certified behavioral analyst, and money for an advanced via individual determination program, also known as AVID. The net taxable value of West Windsor will not be available until after the final budget is approved. And there will be a motion in June to recommend approval of a deposit into the capital reserve. We also discussed the food service renewal. Work is progressing towards completion of an RFP for the procurement of a food service provider for the coming year. The RFP will be based on a cost per meal basis, which is different from the past, where a cost reimbursable format was used. The cost per meal format is recommended and will soon be required by the Department of Agriculture. Sodexo, along with the Food Services Director, provided a program recently to students during lunch where local farmers came in and provided different foods to sample. They've also been working together to create interesting programs during the year for the students. There will be a future chef competition in a few weeks at the elementary level, and there was also an Iron Chef presentation that occurred. Schneider Electric was the only energy services company to submit a proposal to the recent RFP for an energy savings improvement plan provider, also known as ESIP. We also received a construction update. The Maurice Hawk project is moving along. Walls are being constructed, plumbing is being installed, and ductwork is progressing. Town Center is also moving along with first and second floor concrete being poured and roofing work to begin soon. We also discussed possible bus grants. The district has received information regarding a grant of 25% of the cost of new buses if there are any buses in the fleet with a manufacture date of 2008. In addition, there's a grant program available for up to 100% of the cost of an electric bus. On March 13th, there was a bid opening for 27 multi-tiered routes and 21 single-tiered routes. The district will also be going out to bid for trash and recycling, as well as for grounds maintenance this spring. And then finally, we also received a presentation from Mr. Duthie on the progress of design plans for the referendum. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 16th.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, then we're going to move on to the voting portion of our meeting. We're going to start with the administration items 1 through 6. Can I get a motion, please? Martin and Tony, are there any questions about administration?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Hertz? Yes. Ms. Krug?
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield? Yes. Ms. Juliana?
Yes?
Ms. Case?
Yes.
Okay.
I need a motion on the curriculum and instruction items 1 to 5. Dana and Carol, are there any questions?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz?
I'm voting no on number 2 and yes on everything else.
Okay. Thanks. Next is Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield?
Yes.
Mr. Chang?
Yes.
Ms. Juliana?
Yes?
Ms. Case?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Tony, you have a question? Sure.
Could I know what the objection was? That was the textbook, right?
Right.
Can I just know what the objection was?
I thought there were far too many photos of junk food in the book, and I also thought some of the explanations were not very clear.
Okay.
We're going to take a pause from our voting because we're going to have a presentation by Dr. Russo now about our budget.
Okay, now for the exciting part of the meeting. Well, as you know, well, you may not know, the budget is due tomorrow, so we have to turn it in to the county office for their review. So tonight's the vote to approve the submittal to the county office. So that's what's being reviewed tonight. We have the mission statement. Again, everything we do ties back to the mission statement and the goals as we work on the budget. And there's, strategic, the goals overall. There's some of the activities recently that have been going on to ground the presentation that it is about students. So here's some history. I'll go through it quickly. I believe this was presented in December, but it's very favorable historical information for the district. So you see WWP is highlighted in the dark numbers. It's the Taxpayer's Guide to Educational Spending. This is a state document. It's taken from the audits. The state compiles the information, and then they present it in various forms. They disaggregate it and present it various ways. So actual per pupil cost, that should say budgeted per pupil cost. You see of the schools that we compare ourselves with, we're the lowest in the per pupil cost. Student-teacher ratio, I'll say that very quietly, we're the highest. Student administrator ratio, we're the highest. Median teacher pay, we're not the highest, but we're in there. And the facility spend per pupil, we're the lowest in this category. And again, these are districts that we consider at least academically similar. Actual per pupil cost, again, just a quick, this is from the TGES as well, the Guide to Educational Spending. It's a historical view. If you notice back in 02-03, all the numbers were very close. And if you notice in 16-17 how the other districts have ballooned and have surpassed WWP in per pupil spending. The budget is an annual process. It starts as soon as one budget's complete. There's discussion on the next year's budget starts almost immediately. So on March 5th, we had the governor's address. March 7th gave us our state aid numbers. March 19th, tonight, we're adopting it. Tomorrow, I have to have it in the county office. And April 30 will be the public hearing and adoption of the budget. And so there'll be another meeting in which you get to be entertained. Proposed budget, what's in the school budget? It's a planning tool. It considers contingencies. It manages risks. It's got to be fiscally responsible. It's a reflection of the community's values, and it must consider safeguards and buffers. Big picture topics. These pretty much occur every year. The first one obviously is more important now than it was maybe 10 years ago, or at least it's on everyone's radar. You have security. Special services, always. Healthcare costs, always. Capital projects, technology, staffing needs, transportation, and salary increases. These are pretty much annual. This is what causes us to start thinking as soon as one budget's approved. We start thinking in the next year, how do we fund the changes in these areas? So we have staffing projections and growth. So at the village school, this budget includes 2 fifth-grade teachers. With this inclusion, it will also add opportunity for additional sections in special areas such as music, art, Spanish, computers, and health and PE. Also at the elementary level, you have additional nurse at Millstone. You have the dual language immersion program moving to first grade, so additional staff will be needed for that. You have the assistant principal at Wyckoff. That building doesn't have one currently. K-5 board certified behavioral analyst or behavioral interventionist. So there's an increase of 4 people that would fall in the WWPA, 4 people that would fall in the PSA, and 1 FTE that would fall in the Administrator Association. The middle school level, you have 4 teachers between Grover and community in the areas of language arts and mathematics. That concept was debated and discussed for a while on how the additional staff that's needed, how we would fit them into the building's footprint. And this model here is what we came up with. A nurse shared between the 2 middle schools, and a teacher resource specialist for reading. So there's 6 FTEs at the middle school level. The high school level, because of increased student enrollment, you have obviously additional course requests. Would be 2. Yeah, there would be that would be 2 teachers. Yeah, 2 teachers. Increase 76 high school students. Yeah. Then you have 2 high school guidance counselors, and then you have the funding and implementation of an AVID program. So again, there's another 4 FTEs, and then the money to start the AVID program. Special education, you have town center, you have the growth and cap size issues in the autism program. At Wyckoff, there's in-class resource growth in first grade. At Community and Grover, you have in-class resource sections and support services for OT, PT, and speech again, and that would be an equivalent of 4 FTEs in that area. Administration, you'd have an athletic director or a physical education supervisor of some form. We have an athletic director now. What the final product looks like, whether it's stratified or side by side, that's still being discussed. Growth building and grounds assistant director in the evening schedule. Needless to say, we have endless construction that's going to start. We also have the footprint of the buildings is going to increase. So that evening supervision will be very important as we go forward. So there's 2 FTEs in the administrative area. And then something that was cut years ago, the middle school music stipends, and they would be back for choir and band, 4 stipends shared between the 2 middle schools, additional $8,000 in stipends in that area. Also, the universal behavioral health care through Rutgers, an additional two staff members for that. Now, that's a subcontracted unit. Those people are not employees of the district. They're subcontracted, but that's, again, for additional health care of our students at the middle school level. Capital projects. Every year we do several $1 million in capital projects. The high school ball stopper is still on the radar. That's along 571 on the softball field. That's been discussed. The foul balls go into 571, so we still want to put a retaining fence along that area. High school north parking lot for bus parking for the buses. The buses right now just sit open in a lot. At least they'll behind like a fenced-in area at High School North. High School North salt storage right now. We don't have salt storage on the north side of the community in the Plainsboro area. The trucks to salt have to come over to High School South, pick up salt, and then go back. High School North roof restoration, which has been on an ongoing, I think, a 3-phase plan. High School North lock hardware. That's outdated, bringing up to speed, similar keying, that sort of stuff. GMS roof coating, that's 2 sections, 2 phases of a 3-year plan because we want to get it done before the expansion starts because we don't want to have to back one of the phases out even longer, out 3-4 years. A village salt storage over on this side of the community. So the one from south would no longer be used, and we would create a salt storage over here. Dutch Neck, the Airedale repair. It's a tough word to say, believe it or not. Those units don't work as they should, so we'll work on those and get those units up to speed. And then exterior doors at Dutch Neck. Many of those need to be replaced. So it would be $1.836 million out of capital reserve to do that. Annual building projects, some concrete work, some asphalt work, painting work, that sort of stuff would come out of the $1.3 million you see budgeted on the right side. There's still what's left of the Hawk and the Town Center project has to continue to be budgeted going forward, so that's that 17.9 number. Total capital projects of $3.1 million, and then so the total capital projects in this budget are $21 million. But again, that's still carrying Hawk and Town Center going forward, so that's why that number is so high. 1920 budget, this is why you're here. Unknown budget contributors. Prescription increases in July. We could expect a double-digit increase due to high experience. For every dollar we're paying in, insurance companies paying out a little over $1. They expect to at least keep 20-30% of what we pay in. That's not happening. Healthcare benefit increase. We're coming off a 15-month rate lock, so we can expect an increase there. Plus, we have 16 employees coming off a parents plan. So they're 25-year-olds turning 26 where they have to come off and go on their own insurance. Other cost factors. This is going forward, but again, we're always looking forward. And as I mentioned, when one budget ends, we're already looking at the next year's budget. Well, this budget's not done, and we're already looking at next year's. We have negotiations coming up. We have a bid for buildings and grounds for the Aramark contract coming up. food services contract is expiring this year. Special education program review, we're going into that to be reviewed next year. Media center program, we had the review, we had the report. We're going to dig into that, try to fund the issues that were addressed in that report. GPS on buses, we're working towards GPS on our own buses. However, as we go out for new contracts, we're going to have to start looking at GPS on those buses as well. That increased the cost of routes as we move forward. And then we have the minimum wage increase, as you know, that was signed into law. So you have the minimum wage increase. You see July of 19, the increase goes to $10 an hour. In January 2020, $11, and then so forth, so on and so forth. So we'll be up against that. Oh, there's another slide there. But anyway, allocations of expenditures. This is the meat and potatoes of this year's budget, of the 1920 budget. I'm already in 1920 in my mind. Or 2019, 2020. If I was 1920, I'd be a little late. So regular programs, they increased $2.5 million. However, $1 million of that is reclassified technology expenses that were in capital reserve. And were in capital projects in prior years. They don't meet that definition. So that's the Chromebooks. So there's $1 million of technology expense. So that increase would be $1.5 million. That's why it's 2.5 because of the technology piece. Special education and tuition. Services and the in-district lines went up by over $700,000. The tuitions for out-of-district placements dropped by a little over $1 million, hence the difference of $300,000. But support for students that are attending our school, the line is actually up $700,000 for next year. Athletics and activities, you see a slight increase. Educational support, that's everything. I was going to say everything, but teaching, quite frankly. That's your guidance, that's your nurse, that's your CST, OTPT, those sort of, anything that's not definitely special ed or everything that's not in regular ed, but all the supports for students of any type, quite frankly. So educational support. Improvement of instruction and training, that's for, curriculum professional, for improvement, obviously, of curriculum. Administration and technology. Technology is bunched with administration, so you see the increase there. Ops and maintenance, there's a slight increase there. Transportation, as you heard mentioned earlier, our one bus vendor dropped 27 tiered routes. Tiered means more than one run. It goes out, comes back, goes out, comes back. Multi-tiered, 27 multi-tiered runs. 21 single-tiered runs they dropped. They were older routes. The company didn't feel they were, I'll say, money makers for them. So they put them out to bid. We received bids the other day. We're still analyzing the bids. We had a similar number dropped this year in August due to a company going out of business, and our transportation budget went up by about $400,000. So we're anticipating an increase with those dropped routes for next year to be about a $400,000 increase. Benefits coming off a 15-month rate lock. You see the difference there. Capital outlay. Because of the town center and Hawk, the original budgeting was 2 years ago, so it showed up. And then last year it showed up. And then we were able to reduce it in the 1 year, so the amount going forward is $25 million. It's an accounting issue where because the money gets moved from one budget area to another budget area to another budget area, it gets compounded in the budget. It's not new money or anything different. Grants and entitlements, the same. Debt service went up by $1 million because of the referendum. You see that line, so you see the total budget's down by $13 million. That's because of the capital outlay number. So, and I'll explain a little more of that as we go into the revenues. We have the revenue side. Appropriations have to match revenue. That's about as exciting as it gets in accounting. So you see the tax levy. The tax levy before you was at 2.45%. It's a change of $3.9 million over last year. Miscellaneous income, which is your interest, fees, tuitions. Because of the referendum, we're going to have additional interest earned. So we're booking about 500,000 to 600,000 of that additional interest. Booking, what I mean by that is we're putting it in the budget to use it. We're not just hoarding it and saving it going forward future years. So you see local funds are up. State aid is up by $715,000. Special Education Medicaid Initiative, that's, we do all the work. State gets, for every dollar, state keeps 70 cents of our work. We get 30 cents. So the state's estimating we should bring in about $70,000 due to the hard work of the child study team members. They actually, we bring in about 30% more than is projected. We'll see how that goes this year. Fund balance used, we had $1 million less, $1.1 million less to use in the 1920 budget from this year. Capital reserve withdrawal for local share, that's the town center and Hawk issue. Notice it didn't come forward that way for revenue. Capital reserve to debt service, that's the 8.1 million. You'll see later the actual debt service is 8.9. The difference is fund balance in the capital reserve line and additional state aid of $220,000. So that's your capital reserve to debt service. You see a balance is used of $22 million. Grants and entitlements, again, the same number. And debt service, again, it shows up as a revenue because it goes from fund balance to capital reserve, from capital reserve to debt service. Each time it's counted, so it moves forward that way. So it's there. So the $209,000, that's what all the advertised budget will show. That's what the budget that's being submitted will show, and the final budget that's approved, will show. In past years, the presentation hasn't included all of the numbers that capital reserve number would have been kept to just what was being used in that year. I have it in as it will be shown on all public documents. So how do we get to 2.45%? We're allowed 2% on the general fund tax levy. That's the general fund. That's the portion that it's paid locally. And then we have health care adjustments. We had a health care adjustment of $1.2 million. That's because we anticipate our health care costs are going up, so we're allowed to increase the budget by an amount. We had banked cap of over $1 million. Bank cap is spending authority from the last 3 years that we have not asked to use. So you see that, the next number, the 1.43, we have the authority to request in taxes, was it 3.8%? Well, that's not a true number. It's 4.4 million. There was an additional 400,000 in bank cap. We didn't ask for 400,000 in bank cap this year. Because of that, it's expired. But we would have had to have asked for $2.1 million above this number. We would have had to ask for $5 million in order to use the 400,000 that's going away. We chose not to ask for $5 million, so we're losing 400,000 in banked cap. So when all is said and done, that was a long way of saying the budget's at 2.45% or $3.1 million increase. And we still have an additional $1.43 million in spending authority that we're not requesting at this time as we go forward. We have $1 million that expires next year, and then we have $700,000 that would expire the year after. So that was the presentation. Questions is the next slide.
What is the surplus going to be at the end of this next year's budget? Do you know?
Which surplus? General fund surplus? Well,
Yeah.
we don't know the general fund
Yeah.
surplus because that's generated after. The capital reserve surplus is right around 16 million.
16 million?
Yeah, 1.6. Yep.
And how does that compare to what it was for
A
this
year ago?
Yeah.
Well, realize there's money going in and money going out at all times, so it was about 32 million when we started. So we're spending the money as we said we would. And the majority is Hawk and Town Center, which is 22 million of that.
Right. And so that 16 million in capital reserves will go towards, is that already allocated for something, or is that just to be cap reserves for
Sure,
regular maintenance?
there's part of it for, obviously capital reserve spending each year, but also for the offset. The debt service on the tax levy is being paid for out of capital reserve funds.
Right.
So Dave, I don't know if you wanted to jump in on that, but yeah.
Yeah, so when we think out 5 years on capital reserve projects, above and beyond the referendum, there'll be a drawdown each year. So we expect that 16 million to continue to decrease. But we also made a promise through the referendum that it would be flat on the taxpayers and we would be drawing the differential between the 7.7 and above out of cap reserve. Right, so there will be an increased level of payments. Remember, the board just sold bonds in December of 35 million. But by the end of next year, you'll have sold bonds for 115 million, which means your bond payment's going to increase from just under $1 million to about a $4 million bond payment. That's in addition to your current bond payment, as that debt's going down until I think it's 2029, our current debt. So we're going to see a constant increase in our bond payments, and that's going to be paid, the differential will be paid out of cap reserve. So yes, you're going to see that number continue to go down. And in order to meet the promise to the community, we worked on the assumption that we will continue to make transfers into capital reserve as much as $5 million a year in order to ensure that we could keep it a tax base neutral on the referendum. And that was on every presentation I did.
So how much are we putting in capital reserves in this new budget?
There's the 8.1 million for the debt service,
Right.
and then the 1.36 for projects.
But it's net down from 5.1 last year to 4.5 this year.
Yes, pretty much. So the net change is $1 million.
Prematurely moving to the change the PowerPoint. Last year, we made a transfer out of a general fund to cap reserve of I believe it was 5.1 million. This year, due to increase in staff costs, and when I say staff costs, additional staff positions, we weren't able to allocate as many dollars towards next year's budget. So that number's decreased to 4.5, I believe, 4.5 or 4.6
Yeah, 4.6.
in there. So we're down about 500,000 from a year ago in what we're able to transfer. Remember, the assumption for flat was 5 million. So we're below our projection of where we want it to be. And as we continue to add staff, the ability to continue to move that transfer at that level is going to continue to diminish. I'm going to change the PowerPoint before to our architects.
Thank you, Dr. Russo.
So joining us this evening is George Duthie, the principal architect for FVFP, and Steve Schreier, who's a project architect on several of the projects in the referendum. They're joining us tonight to make sure that the public sees an update as to what's occurring within the referendum, but George will also touch on the Hawk and the Town Center projects as well.
Sure. So that's good? No. Is it working? Mike?
Yep.
Okay, good. It's hard for me to hear if I can come across or not. So anyway, thanks again, everyone, for having me, and I'm glad to be here tonight to provide an update in regards to the referendum projects, the Maurice Hawk Elementary School project and Town Center Elementary School as well. And as was discussed earlier, one of our projects, fire alarm replacement, is underway in terms of just getting ready to finalize proposals and get started on the work. We actually met today with Plainsboro Township and went over the project on their side with them. We're going to be doing a phased approach to the projects. We are doing 8 of the schools. As mentioned earlier, we will not be doing the fire alarm at High School North or Thomas Grover. They have more modern systems there. But all the other schools will receive new fire alarm systems with carbon monoxide detection and modernized voice evacuation and other features. Okay, so that design is underway now. Our first 2 schools, Maurice Hawk and Town Center, because we need to get those in while the new construction is underway, followed by High School South and Village Elementary School, the other side of this building. Generators underway as well. The bidding in early April. Right now, still going through some of the final design parameters, looking at confirmation of some of the loads, but that will be done at 5 of the school buildings: Community Middle School, Millstone River,
GMS
Village.
South and North.
I'm sorry, yeah, and
GMS South and North.
and Thomas Grover. Yes, thank you. And South. Thank you. I know that. Here's Community Middle School. Design work is well underway on Community Middle School. We've had a lot of design meetings, and we are well underway with the design. What you're seeing here is just a very broad overview of the project in terms of what is going on. Unfortunately, the pointer doesn't seem to reach quite that far.
You have to point it at the computer.
Oh, sorry. I don't hit anybody with this. I have to point at the computer. Okay, hold on. Is that working? What? Oh. I was just trying to see, to get the pointer to work. Laser pointer, yeah. It was on the wall. Oh, I know, it didn't go on the screen.
There.
Is that
It's the new construction on the lower part of the picture?
Right, that's what I wanted to go over. So let me just keep going. So on the lower part of the photo, on the bottom, the dark areas are the new construction. Starting on the left side is a new gymnasium addition, moving across new main entrance, administration, and then if you jump to the other side, where the next section starts, we have a new library and a new two-story addition, which consists of science rooms and classrooms. So that's the overview. Now, on the inside of the building, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Here's what we call elevation studies. We're just taking a look now to see what the building might look like. This is from Grover's Mill Road. And again, following the same sequence on the left side, top, gymnasium, the new main entrance, administration office expansion, and then hooked onto the right side and continuing across the media center and the two-story classroom addition as well. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, this one does. Thank you. There we go. Got it. Site plan, preliminary site plan. Again, Grover's Mill Road with the improvements made by the township. Drop-off area. Again, this is the gym addition. This is nice and bright. The administration area here, new main entrance, library, and again, attached to the existing two-story addition, new two-story addition. Again, some parking spaces, about 30 along the front, barrier-free visitor spaces, drop-off, and then, of course, basically what you have now, more parking spaces, right? So. Now, looking at the plan, and again, this color rendered version here, again, this is the gymnasium. This area, the darker colors are the new construction, as we discussed before. But up where your existing gymnasium is now, an expansion of your dining commons, a fitness center, dance studio, function, an expanded weight room, and then moving across, we have a new kitchen being remodeled, the technology, robotics lab. We're going to be working on the auditorium. That will be renovated. And as we move across to music, renovating the music rooms, and then in the existing library, we're going to be expanding the music suite. We'll be renovating the existing science rooms as well. So it's a very large and complex, phased project that touches upon a lot of the building, as you can see. Second floor, mostly here, it's the second story part of the addition, science labs, prep rooms, resource special ed science, and also the pink area there. That is, what we're doing there is we're going to move the music room that's in that location now down to be closer to the new and renovated music rooms, and we're placing an art room there next to the art room that exists in that location at this time, right next door. So the two art rooms would be next to each other. These are just an overview. We don't need to spend a lot of time on these plans, but this just kind of shows you the level of detail that's starting to be developed within the designs themselves. A little bit harder to see, but there is a level of detail associated with each of these room layouts, furniture layouts, equipment layouts, preliminary mechanical equipment designs being done at this time. So second floor. And this is just to give you an idea of what's going on. This is just a science lab. This is the result of the meetings we've had with all the science folks, instructors and supervisors and people like that. Prep room on the, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Prep room on the right side. Each pair of science labs gets a prep room. And then, of course, we have the perimeter lab stations, and then the center instruction space, teacher desk, not unlike what you have now in terms of science rooms. So what are the key dates? We're hoping to advertise for bids in September, hoping to start construction in December. We have a lot of regulatory and approvals that have to be obtained. There's environmental approvals and so on and so forth. We hope to start construction in December of 19, finish the gym and media center additions a year later, and then move out of the existing gym, move out of the existing library into the new spaces so we can start our renovations, complete the two-story addition in the spring of 2021, and hopefully finish everything by the end of 2021. So again, just a rendering of what possibly to study, again, of what the new front entrance to Community Middle School can look like. This is the south side of the building, so you'll see the ability to bring in some daylighting and things like that through this clear story windows. On the right side, this will be a separate visitor security entrance over here, okay? Gym, and this is again approaching from the parking lot. This is what that could possibly look like, or some iteration of this as we continue to move forward with the design. Thomas Grover Middle School, key dates, following more or less on the same path as Community Middle School, okay? Less renovation work, far less renovation work at Thomas Grover. So Thomas Grover consists of a new addition, basically added into the corner of the building on a bus loop. You can kind of see that over here on the right side. Here's the loop coming around the back of the building. This is that back parking lot. Right across there, we have an existing two-story pod and a single-story pod, and we're going to connect those. Science rooms, classrooms, and special ed science, again, in this addition. Okay? Also, we'll be doing secure vestibules at the schools as well, including Thomas Grover. But you can see in the lower left-hand side where the addition is going. Again, here's some elevation, preliminary elevations of that new addition, what it would look like, and here's a rendering of it from across the bus loop road. Okay, so very much like what's there now. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel over here. It's a very nice-looking building at this right now, so we're not going to try to change that. We're going to add some flourishes, but mostly follow along with what's there. So, other referendum projects. As you know, we have other large projects as well. High School South additions, renovations. We're hoping to bid March of 2020 and complete in December of 2021. We'll be starting on that work, on that building design work very soon. High School North, bid in the fall of 2020. Wyckoff School, finish those August of 2021. We plan to bid High School North, which is just a single small addition for a dance studio, and Wyckoff, which has a 4 kindergarten and CST, toilet rooms, things like that, a smaller addition. We plan to bid those together. HVAC improvements, again, bid fall of 2019. High School North, Millstone River, and Wyckoff. High School North and Millstone. High School North being the largest of the projects. Miscellaneous renovations, toilet rooms at Wyckoff Elementary School, toilet rooms at Dutch Neck Elementary School, secure vestibules, media center renovations. Okay, so kind of moving forward in like a phased approach here. As I mentioned earlier, a progress report on Maurice Hawk Elementary School. As you may have heard, weather, it rained a little bit this year. Last year, we had quite a bit of rain. We had an effect on the project. The good news is we've been doing some catching up. The roof is going on right now. About 75% of the roof is on the building. The walls are going up. Those of you who have driven by see the outside walls. The masons are working on the inside of the building. Masonry work is well underway. We have a lot of mechanical equipment in place. We have a lot of duct work and piping going into the building right now. So, it is an August completion date. It's right now too soon to tell if we're going to make that date. Obviously, contingency plans are being made in the event that date isn't made, but we're doing everything in our power to get that done. Efforts are being made to catch up. Town Center, work well underway. Steel is completed. Concrete floors are nearly completed. Roofing is preparing to start. Masonry work will be starting also. So, thank you.
Any questions for George?
Questions?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Duthie. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to go pick up again on our agenda. We have some finance items to vote on. I'm going to pull just the budget separately, though. So I need a motion on finance item number 1, which is to submit the tentative budget. Can I get a motion on that? Tony and Isaac? Are there any questions?
Let's say one thing I will say, if I can jump in. The last slide should have said 3.966459 million, as the second to the last slide did for 2.45%. So that was my error. Yep, $3,966,459. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll start with, if we're ready for the vote, correct?
Yeah.
We'll start with Ms. Hertz.
This is to submit the budget.
Yep, this is to submit the budget to the county office. Okay. And next is Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield. Yes. Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
And Ms. Case.
Yes. All right, now I need a motion on the remaining finance items 2 to 13. Rachel and Martin, are there any questions on the finance items?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
And Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I please get a motion on the personnel items 1, 2, and our green addendum?
Madam
Rachel.
President, I just wanted to make a couple changes.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you.
Sure thing. Under non-certificated staff, please remove the first item for a change in hours for the instructional assistant. Laura Morgan, that's being removed.
Say that, I'm sorry.
Under non-certificated staff, page 2,
Yes, okay.
and on the regular agenda, the white agenda, personnel. Remove that item, the first item, Laura Morgan.
Okay.
And for the hourly rate chart, on the second page, under pool, the lifeguard entry. Okay. The lifeguard entry is missing the dates. You know how we have 2 hourly rate changes? In July, we have the $10 an hour. It doesn't show the effective date for January 1st, 2020, so that will be added. The rate goes to $11 an hour January 1st, 2020. So that will be added.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
And Ms. Case.
Yes.
Oh, Ms. Krug.
Yes.
All right.
I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge some retirements. Rebecca Totaro, an elementary school teacher at Maurice Hawk, is retiring after 31 years with the district. Colleen Peterson, a school counselor at Community Middle School, retiring after 37 years with the district. Lisa Goldstein, teacher at Maurice Hawk, retiring after 25 years with the district. Tony Dobonowitz, the purchasing agent, is retiring after 13 years with the district. Mary Doyle, it's the CMS school nurse, is retiring after 21 years with the district. Janice Anderson Chapin, music teacher at Dutch Neck and Hawk this year, is retiring after 17 years with the district. And as our superintendent noted at the beginning of the meeting, Martin Smith will be retiring after 8 years with the district. I just want to take a minute, Martin, to tell you that as the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, I hope I wanted you to know that I learned a lot from you since I've been on the board, and I appreciate that, and I look forward to learning more from you before you leave at the end of the school year. So thank you so much to you and everyone else, and we wish them well in their retirements. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Carol and Dana? Any questions, comments on that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Do we have any liaison reports? And any new business? That brings us to our second opportunity for public comment. 15 minutes will be provided. Each participant is asked to give his or her name prior to making a statement, which shall be limited to 3 minutes. All statements should be made to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Amastrelli. I'm the president of the Teachers Association. I waited too long to give my best wishes to Gerard Dalton, so I'm not going to wait. One board meeting I showed up at, he was already gone, so I guess you know what I want to say. I did say some things to Martin earlier today. I want to take a short moment to extend to Martin the sincerest congratulations from the association, as well as my personal wishes on the next part of your journey. The first ask that I had of Martin on becoming president of the association was to sit in on the report card committee. I was curious how the process was working, our teachers being listened to and all that, and this already underway group. And I was so pleased to see the level of collaboration that was present at that meeting 5 years ago. And this was not out of the norm. Martin, during your tenure, I've seen the level of cooperation, the level of seeking input, the support necessary to grow academic programs in the next-gen committees, the alternate evaluation committee, the math workshop programs, DAC committee, to the PD Day structure in February, just to name a few. I personally think one of the most important additions to this district that has been advocated by Martin is the teacher resource specialist. As I go around and speak to other association leaders in the state, they are amazed when I share the level of inbuilt PD support we have in the district that we give to staff, from staff. So that's something that I feel very strongly about. I know we all hope that as we move on to another part of our lives, that something does remain behind. Well, for Martin, it's not just the big things that you left behind, but also there are a lot of small things that you left behind. So thank you for your years here at West Windsor-Plainsboro. You have, in my personal opinion, made us a better district. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right. Seeing as there's none, I need a motion to adjourn. Tony and Dana, all those in favor? Aye. All right. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're adjourned.